all the best sports clips from around the country. Now you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of over there? Because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They say this all the time. They talk down to us. They think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. But I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and it's turning into something truly, truly special. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of First Things First, talking about the Chiefs versus the Ravens. I know a lot of you are definitely excited to unpack this and take a look and see what Nick Wright has to say. I've already posted a few videos now with regards to obviously the Chiefs versus the Ravens, and I definitely want to share my thoughts within the realm of the First Things First clips and stuff. So, but I'm curious to see. I already know what Nick is obviously going to say. I'm really curious to see how Brew unpacks this game, and I don't know if Mangini is there yet, or if he'll be there later in the show, and if they'll give him an opportunity to talk about that game. But I'm really curious to see how they unpack it. I definitely have some pretty strong feelings with regards to this. I think that the Chiefs played great, and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid definitely just consistently proven to be the best quarterback coaching duo of all time, without a doubt. And I think this is a massive stain on Lamar Jackson's resume, without a doubt. And Lamar Jackson proved that you can't necessarily trust him. But I also blame the coaching for the Ravens for not putting Lamar and that offense in a position to succeed as well. They carried the ball. The Chiefs rushed 32 times to the Ravens 16 times. Okay, and more than half of that was Lamar Jackson running. So that game plan is just awful. I mean, it was just awful. And then when you look at the GOAT coach, Andy Reid, offensive genius, with the GOAT quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, they still rushed the ball. They still handed the ball off to Pacheco and company. And again, that's what good teams and that's what good players and that's what good coaches do. And that's why Andy Reid, to me, is just second to none. And it's just such an amazing gift to have, to not only have Andy Reid to have Patrick Mahomes, but to Patrick Mahomes to have Andy Reid as his coach. And to me, we see that perfectly by watching what they did with Lamar Jackson, but also Lamar Jackson's own immaturity. Regardless of them putting Lamar in a position to succeed, the game was still within reach. And then Lamar just crumbled. He's getting mad, throwing his helmet into the ground, stomping the ground, throwing into triple coverage, which is just bad. That's just bad football. And it wasn't good defense in that moment. The Chiefs definitely played good defense, and they made Lamar Jackson feel uncomfortable, but also Lamar Jackson just made himself feel uncomfortable. And he said, and one of my biggest questions going into this game was whether or not Lamar Jackson would revert to the Lamar Jackson of the old. And that's exactly what he did. That's literally exactly what he did. And it's unfortunate. I feel for him, but it's, he's going into the next set of playoffs. And until he proves otherwise, you could just never say, I got trust in Lamar. You just can't. You just can't ever say that. And to me, that's also what separates Patrick Mahomes more than any other quarterback in the NFL right now, is that you always have trust that he is going to play well, that he is going to bring it. You don't know if the team around him will, but you know for a fact Andy Reid is going to have a great offensive game plan and call a great game. And Patrick Mahomes will absolutely be able to execute and play well. And to me, the perfect example of that was that pass to ice the game. It was a perfect throw and a brilliant play call, right? You need both. You need the play call and you need the perfect throw. And so to me, that's the beauty between Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
To the Super Bowl for the fourth time in 5 years. Mahomes completes 77% of his passes against what Brew told me was the league's best defense.
Well,
and he summons vintage, jobs not done Kobe energy afterwards. Take a listen.
you don't take it for granted either. You never know how many you're going to get to, if you're going to get to any. And so it truly is special. just to do it with these guys after what we've been through all season long, the guys coming together, it really is special. But I told them, I mean, the job's not done. I mean, our job now is to prepare ourselves to play a good football team in the Super Bowl and try to get that ring.
Okay. Nick, was there ever a doubt?
Was there ever a doubt? Brew, what'd they do? Because this game wasn't in Kansas City.
Nah.
This game was in Baltimore.
I'll let you say
They
it.
went to the bank. They broke into their house. They found their favorite robe.
Oh.
They found their favorite slippers. They sat in their lazy boy. And Brew, what did they then make themselves?
I actually have an answer for that.
What'd they make themselves?
Well, they told the Ravens, we don't want your stinking ham sandwich. Make us some sloppy joes.
Well, you know
That's
what?
they told.
Okay,
But they'll
disagree.
Sloppy joes are good.
If we could,
I'd rather have a sloppy joe
they
than a ham
said,
sandwich.
make us the biggest and best sandwich
You got
you've
a
ever
sandwich?
seen. Oh, I've got
it's
a
not-
sandwich
Wait,
befitting the evening.
wait, what?
Because that's what they did, Brew. And while the sandwich bit is yours, thank you, everyone. And there's a nice large
Why did
soda
I
pop.
never have a sandwich? And that's
because it
that's
was
a
never
liter. I
befitting
had like a
the
little
moment.
can.
But while you asked me,
Yes.
was there a doubt? How could there be a doubt when I gave you the exact recipe
did.
on Friday?
He did.
And now I blew the score. I said 19-13. I was way off. It was 17-10. 4 Lamar sacks. How many times did he sack, Brew? 4 times. 3 Mahomes throws. We'll get to.
So this is the thing that I wanted to highlight real fast, because you don't get to do a victory lap when majority of the games you call are wrong, right? Like he got these check marks obviously as they show you, but he said the Cowboys were going to not only make the Super Bowl but obviously beat the Packers. That did not happen. He said the Browns are going to beat the Texans. That did not happen. He then said the Texans were going to beat the Ravens. That did not happen. He then said that the Rams were going to beat the Detroit Lions. That did not happen. He said Brock Purdy was going to turn into a pumpkin. That did not happen. So again, you don't get to do a victory lap. And he even admitted to, I think last episode or definitely last week, where he said, Nick's picks or whatever, he's below 50%. He's below 500. So again, you don't get to be like, this is exactly what happened. I told you it was going to happen. It's like, well, yeah, if you guess 10 games, one of them is going to be correct, right? Like, so that's why I never am a fan of predictions. A few weeks ago, I made like one prediction video where I was like, this is what I think is going to happen. But for the most part, I've been pretty consistent of saying like, I don't love predictions because the greatest gambler, the greatest sports bettors in the world have a 53 to 55% success rate. That's considered as good as it gets, okay? And most of them don't sustain that for long periods of time, meaning that they will go below that. So, and that's just a coin flip. So this whole idea that if you predict something right, that means you just knew it and you're a genius and smart. And then if you predict something wrong, then you're just an idiot. Because again, if people want to say that Nick Wright's a genius, oh, he was so smart, see, he got this right. But then by comparison, then you have to say, well, then he's a complete moron for all the other predictions he got wrong. And I don't think Nick Wright's a complete moron. I think he's obviously a super fan of the Chiefs, which personally I find annoying. I find any super fan in that regard annoying, especially when you're on TV, just because it gets kind of old. And I prefer non-biased takes, which is why I really favor the Con Cowherds of the world and stuff like that. But yeah, I just find it funny when you do a victory lap, and obviously understandably so, he's going to do a victory lap. It's the Chiefs and he wants to do that. But when you're wrong majority of the time and then you're finally right once, it's like, I don't know. And again, I don't think anyone should be, you have elite athlete. Put it this way. I think the perfect example for this is a lot of people would have said that the Chiefs were going to beat the Raiders on Christmas Day. And they didn't. They lost. And so if you make a video, you predict, I think the Chiefs are going to absolutely smoke the Raiders. They and this, that, and this is why, yada, yada, yada. And you do deep, in-depth analysis, and then the Raiders now win that game. Does that mean you have no idea what you're talking about? Does that mean that you're just an idiot? on, at football or anything for that matter. And, of course not. So that's why we watch these games, because ultimately you don't know how it's going to unfold, and predictions can be fun. Of course, that's why everyone always does them. But at the same time, you don't know. And I've already outlined how Nick Wright has pretty much gotten this entire playoff run completely wrong, for the most part. And so it's just I just find that funny.
That moment, 2 back-breaking Mahomes scrambles. He actually had 3. 1 defensive pass interference on Cena. I missed that. Instead, it was 1 egregious holding call that took away a touchdown. And, of course, 0 Patrick Mahomes turnovers. If we can show you those 3 big Mahomes throws to start the game, the greatest quarterback ever to the greatest tight end ever for the greatest playoff connection ever, bam. Later in the game, 3rd and 5, critical play. It's Patrick Mahomes saying, Lamar, this is what you try to be, but I actually am.
Oh.
And then, to ice the game, for the much maligned MVS, who Chris Broussard had kicked out
That
of
was
the
the
league,
call of the game to me.
Patrick Mahomes believed it. And so that's the Mahomes piece of it. Then there is the defensive masterclass, where this defense that I told you was underrated, this defense that I told you that was doing what the Ravens were doing without forcing turnovers. But what if they start forcing turnovers? They made the MVP look pedestrian. So the actual MVP could keep adding to his resume, which at this point is impossible to believe, so I just have to keep showing it to you. Patrick Mahomes, postseason, all-time ranks, first in everything. Despite that, though, Brew, he has had 1 bad postseason moment, the second half against Cincinnati. Since then, since Patrick Mahomes' 1 postseason mistake, well, he hasn't turned the ball over. That's an all-time record. They haven't lost. That's pretty good. And he has done it as an underdog, injured, and on the road. And then, last but not least, there was, finally, thankfully, in the nick of time, some Ravens bulletin board material. Courtesy, if I can misquote Peyton Manning, their idiot kicker, Justin Tucker, who once upon a time was known for being the greatest kicker ever. Now he's known for this. These silly hijinks right before the game, poking Mahomes and Kelsey, which then led to the greatest game of Kelsey's career and a perfect Mahomes playoff game. So for the first of many, if we could please, drop the damn banner. Hey, Justin Tucker, practice somewhere else. He got 100 by 52 yards. Go find somewhere else to practice, not where Mahomes is warming up. So, no, from that moment, Brew, there was no doubt.
Is that it? I'm waiting for more banners.
You know what? You know what? More banners might be coming. I guess we'll see.
I got to say something I don't think Wiles I've ever said on this show. And this is hard because I've never said it. Nick, you were right. Yeah. Never. I don't know how many shows I've been on. It's been a lot, hundreds. But the Chiefs are incredible.
Yeah, we told you this.
I know, but I want to look. I can sit here and praise the Chiefs. You did a good job. I got to say something about the Ravens.
Please.
This is what I would have
The Chiefs showed championship mettle and composure, and the Ravens self-imploded. I'm not taking anything from the Chiefs. The Chiefs beat them fair and square. The Ravens self-imploded. One of the most impressive things the Chiefs may have done was they shook the Ravens.
Yeah.
And they made the Ravens forget who they were. They lost their identity. After Mahomes moved down the field with those 2 first possessions to score, the Ravens start saying, oh, we can't stop him. Even though our defense is number 1, even though it was historic, we can't stop him, so we're going to have to win a shootout. So we're not running the ball anymore.
Seemed odd.
They led the league in rushes, 32 rushes a game. They rushed 16 times yesterday, and a lot of those were scrambles.
And that's what I was trying to point out before. I don't know if I pointed out earlier in this video or if I pointed out in a different video. I've been talking about the Ravens and the Chiefs a lot now, and that's the thing. And see, that's less about the Chiefs from my viewpoint. And again, I agree with exactly what Bruce said. The Chiefs won that game fair and square, and if anything, their experience and veteran level and their championship pedigree is what proved to be way more superior than that of the Ravens. And that was always the Ravens question mark in that regard, especially with like Lamar Jackson. And again, they averaged 32 carries a game, and then in this game they only carried the ball 16, and more than half of that was from scrambles. That's like if the Golden State Warriors, who are unloading on threes, get to the NBA Finals, and then they say, all right, we're just not going to shoot threes now. We're just going to do layups and go for twos. It's like, what kind of game plan is that? And so to me, Harbaugh has to answer some serious questions with regards to this. Lamar Jackson also does too. Like I said, this is a major stain on Lamar Jackson, but Lamar Jackson isn't the one that comes up with the game plan. And again, the Chiefs defense made both, I guess, the offensive coordinator and the coach, and Harbaugh, I guess, for that matter, but also Lamar uncomfortable. But this was a self-implosion more than the Chiefs just completely stopping the Ravens. Like they didn't force Lamar Jackson to throw the ball into triple coverage. They didn't force the Ravens to just abandon the run altogether. And I don't know if that was out of the fear of Patrick Mahomes, which is interesting. That is an interesting. I didn't think of it like that, where since the Chiefs scored back to back, so quickly, that they were then like kind of nervous with that regard. But again, the Ravens held the Chiefs to only 17 points, right? They held literally Patrick Mahomes to 17 points. That's not the easiest thing to do. So you just needed something out of the Ravens offense, and they could not do it. And this is where you really saw Lamar Jackson, implode. And to me, that was, I kind of go back and forth between putting that on Lamar and putting that on the coaching. I think it's in a lot of ways 50-50, but I think Lamar has to be able to manage his emotions way better, especially because if you're the leader of the team, if you're throwing your helmet, slamming the ground, and doing all that, if you're on the sideline and you're looking at that, you're like, you don't feel good about that. You don't feel good about that. And you're being all emotional. And now the other players, and again, you see Flowers. That was he did two of the biggest mistakes you could ever imagine. I mean, he gets a taunting call, which was so obviously taunting, right? It was like, not even like, oh, come on, let them play. Like, it was so clearly taunting. And then he makes the biggest mistake of reaching out across the end zone, which you're literally taught not to do since Pee Wee football. I mean, you're literally taught that from the moment you play. It's like, you don't reach out like that unless it's like the last play of the game and it's do or die. So that was just, he wanted to be a hero. He wanted to score. And he shouldn't have done that. He should have done what most other people do, where you tuck it and hold it and absorb the contact. They would have been at the 1 yard line, 2 yard line, and then they would have been able to most likely run it in for a touchdown. But instead, they didn't, and that obviously changed everything. That that now the score is different, obviously, right? That ends up being a touchdown, and now you don't know because the Ravens were holding the Chiefs down in terms of their offense, right? You can't say that Patrick Mahomes was having a field day necessarily, but I think also, because a lot of people were also saying, and I think I saw another clip, first things first, that I kind of just clicked, so I'll save, I guess, too much unpacking of the Ravens for this clip, and I'll save it maybe for the next clip. But I think the other thing is that I want to talk about is a lot of people in the comments from a previous video, because I posted a video where we were saying, does Patrick Mahomes need to have a big game to win? And I think there's some confusion with regards to that, because Patrick Mahomes absolutely had a big game. And you heard Nick Wright say it himself, Patrick Mahomes played perfect. Well, if a perfect game isn't a big game, then I don't know what is, right? I mean, it wasn't an exciting game of Patrick Mahomes, right? It wasn't like, oh my God, he threw for 400 yards. He did a behind the back, no look, this, that, right? Like, I understand that. And so that's why Patrick Mahomes' game jumps off the screen so much, that if he doesn't do that, but he played a perfect game. He did exactly what needed to do, exactly what the situation called for, and exactly the game plan of Andy Reid. I mean, they were handing the ball off. They were throwing when they needed to. They were making big plays when they needed to. And again, I think the brilliant call was to ice the game right before the 2-minute warning. I think that was an unbelievable throw. I mean, that throw was huge. That's a harder throw than I think people realize, and a very courageous call by Andy Reid. And so it's having that faith and trust in not only your quarterback, but your team as a whole to be able to execute it. And it's a thing of beauty. Patrick Mahomes, and like I said before, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Again, if you want to debate whether or not Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT or Andy Reid is the GOAT, I can understand that. I can see why you would, why there's a discussion for that necessarily. But from my viewpoint, you just cannot deny that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are the best coach quarterback duo of all time. To me, that's like, I don't know who you would possibly put in front of them. There's just no one. And so I think what Patrick Mahomes offered a master class in was showing that you don't need to be the hero and put everything on your back in order to be great and in order to be elite. And the example that I've used now a couple times in the videos today, but it's worth mentioning again, is I saw this years ago after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, the second year they were in the playoffs again, and Nick Foles again, because Carson Wentz got hurt, and the Eagles were rolling. Nick Foles was rolling against the Saints, and they had all the momentum, and all they needed to continue to do was play smart, conservative, good situational football. But instead, a terrible play call by Doug Peterson to push the ball downfield. Nick Foles pushed the ball downfield through like a 50, 60-yard bomb, and it got intercepted. And it was unnecessary because before they were getting everything they wanted. They were able to get these chunk plays of 7 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards. There was no reason to just launch the ball down the field like that. And it changed everything. And that's what Patrick Mahomes does not do and what Andy Reid does not do. Andy Reid does not put Patrick Mahomes in that situation, and Patrick Mahomes doesn't force the ball downfield. That's why he's not throwing any of these interceptions as well. He's being incredibly smart and with the throws and taking chances when necessary, and high percentage chances as well. And to me, that is what is what makes Patrick Mahomes so amazing and so great. And it's really second to none, especially second to none in the league currently. Whether or not you want to say second to none in life, in all of football history, we can have that discussion. But it's definitely just a thing of beauty to watch. And all you can ever do is just say Patrick Mahomes is amazing. I don't think anyone ever doubts that. I think there's some gaslighting going on where people are saying that they're second guessing, where people were doubting Patrick Mahomes. I don't think anyone has ever doubted Patrick Mahomes. I think they were doubting whether or not the Chiefs would be able to put together a run, which is understandably so considering how they were playing. But no one was doubting that Patrick Mahomes would be able to play good or play big or play consistently. I don't think anyone was ever really doubting that. I know Brew wasn't doubting that. I wasn't doubting that. I don't think Mangini was doubting that. Colin Cowherd wasn't doubting that. I mean, I don't know if there's other shows that I've never heard that, and no one's doubting Andy Reid, so it was just, to me, all of the benefits and the pros and the things that make Patrick Mahomes so elite, as well as Andy Reid as an elite coach, were on full display in that game, even though it wasn't the most exciting game ever. And everything that you would then knock for, say, Lamar Jackson, and also not having an elite head coach to work with, was on full display. We saw it there from the game plan, from the meltdown, from the inconsistent play from Lamar Jackson, the Harbaugh just not getting his team ready, from multiple personal fouls, stupid personal fouls, taunting penalties. They were not ready to play in that game. They were not ready for that moment. And granted, you could say Flowers young, right? What's a guy, 22 years old or something? He's a child at that point. So like I get that argument, and Colin Cowherd kind of talked about that before, but I don't know. That's a tougher pill to swallow when you're making such silly mistakes. And again, I blame Harbaugh. I would blame Harbaugh for not getting his team prepared in that regard, to know this is going to be an intense game. We're going up against the champs. We're going up against Patrick Mahomes. No room for error. We got to be organized. No stupid fouls. No taunting. No this. No that. We know Kelsey likes to get underneath people's skins, like all this type of stuff, and they just didn't do it. And so again, kudos to the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and everyone else on the Chiefs franchise and the Chiefs fan base. But I'm really excited to see this Super Bowl. At first, I think I was less excited for this Super Bowl, or at the potential when I was thinking about what are the various Super Bowl matchups. Just because I think some of the other interesting stories could have been cool, like the Ravens and Lamar Jackson's first Super Bowl appearance. Same thing with Detroit. I think that's an awesome story to have them go from literally, literally nothing to potentially winning the Super Bowl. But I think at the end of the day, this is the best matchup because this is the most unpredictable matchup because we have two amazing organizations, two franchises filled with veterans that have clearly proven to be able to play at incredibly high levels when the pressure is on, that both the Ravens and the Lions have not proven. So I think we can trust that we're going to get a really great, fun, exciting Super Bowl. And I'm really excited to talk about it with you guys for the next 2 weeks. And we'll have to listen to a lot of probably the same analysis of Nick Wright saying Brock Purdy is awful, and Brew saying Purdy is great, and Nick Wright saying the Chiefs are going to win. And I'm curious to say what Brew has to say if he's going to pick the Chiefs or the 49ers. But I'm excited. But, yep. Let me know what you guys all think. Would love to hear your thoughts on this one. How do you think Patrick Mahomes played? How do you think Lamar Jackson played? What did you think of that game? Do you think even though it was pretty... I think it was boring, but did you think it was boring? 17-10? Again, obviously, you Chiefs fans are going to say it was exciting, and you Ravens fans are going to say that game was awful. So any of you immediate fans of those teams, I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. Did you think it was fun, exciting, a good defensive battle? Would love to hear it. Let me know in the comments below. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really helps with the visibility and the algorithm, and I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.